You're not going to believe what banks did in 2020. According to a recent report, 20% of all money in circulation today was printed in 2020. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, great, more money for me. Not necessarily. The thing that can happen when banks print money is something known as inflation. And inflation is not good for everyone. You see, inflation is actually one of the reasons why housing is so expensive today. When you have the same number of people competing for the same scarce resources, the price is going to go up. The way that they're competing is how many dollars they're willing to spend for that scarce resource. With interest rates decreasing over the past 20 years, people are able to spend more. If they have $1,000 a month budget for housing, they're going to spend that $1,000 no matter if it gets them a $500,000 house or if it gets them a $800,000 house. They're only concerned with what their monthly payment's going to be, not the total amount of debt they're willing to take on. So who has this not been good for? That's simple. Anyone holding cash. You see, if more dollars are being printed, then that means that there's more dollars available to be spent. And if more dollars are available to spend, then that means people selling goods are going to command more dollars. That means that the purchasing power of the dollars you've saved is going to decrease. There have actually been some cases where inflation got so bad, they called it hyperinflation. Zimbabwe comes to mind, where the price of a single loaf of bread cost $35 million. Some say this is the loaf of bread that many millennials have been using to make the avocado toast that has been keeping them out of the housing market. So who's inflation good for? Those holding debt. Your debts are technically gradually being paid off or eroded with inflation. You see, there's something known as the real interest rate. If a bank is charging you 1.5% on a mortgage or any other sort of financing, but the inflation rate is 3%, then the real rate of interest is negative 1.5%. That means that you're getting paid to borrow money. And I'm not saying you should go out and get a loan to go on vacation or buy a fancy new car, but in the case of housing, it may make sense. You see, there are some things known as inflation hedges. These assets are going to go up with the pace of inflation. Real estate, commodities, and gold are to name a few. So if you were to borrow money to purchase real estate, if you had a negative real interest rate of 1.5%, at the end of the first year after inflation has taken hold, you should be able to pocket 1.5% of the value of that home. So as you can see, inflation's not always bad, and it's not always good. It really depends on what you have in your investment portfolio. That's why it's really important to make sure that your portfolio is hedged against inflation. Otherwise, it's going to erode the purchasing power of your future retirement.